The views and opinions expressed on this podcast, including discussions on news, politics, and current events, are solely those of the host and guests and are based on personal thoughts, experiences, and opinions. Nothing stated should be considered factual unless independently verified by the listener. This podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only and does not provide financial, legal, medical, political, or life advice. Any actions discussed are what we would do personally, not recommendations for others. Listeners are encouraged to do their own research and consult qualified professionals before making any decisions. What's going on? Welcome to another episode of the Impel Forward podcast. I am your host, Leon, and today I have with me Miss BJ Council. She is the founder and primary presenter of UN50 LLC. As the first African-American female to achieve the rank of deputy chief within the Durham City Police Department, she addresses community challenges slowly and methodically to create lasting change. As a Black female and retired police officer, she offers a unique view from both sides. She understands the police perspective while also being aware of the systemic issues and generational trauma that affect the Black and brown communities. Now, this thing is about 5 more paragraphs, but I ain't gonna read all that. She does a lot in the community. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Thank you. Thanks for the invite. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, glad to have you here. Now, before we get into it, tell me a little bit about yourself growing up.
Growing up,
Yeah.
we're going to go there, right?
Yeah.
Rural part of North Carolina,
Mhm.
eastern part of North Carolina, one of the poorest counties in the state. Raised on a farm, raised by parents who were born in the 1930s. So you can kind of understand what kind of household we had. It's like, looking at you, you're like, sit down, right? That kind of do what your parents say to do. And then left there, went to Central for a little while, didn't graduate. And just because, like I said, raised by parents, like, you can't go out the yard. So when I got out the yard, I stayed in the yard at Central instead of classes, so.
Right.
And then when I left there, I got into law enforcement because I needed a job. That's kind of, in a nutshell, that's basically it.
So you left Central, didn't graduate. Did you ever go back and graduate?
Nope, didn't do it.
I didn't do it.
Yeah, I regret that, but actually, I did pretty well for not having a college education. I made it all the way up to deputy chief. And sometimes I think that probably was by design of the universe, because if I'd done this career and gotten to be a police chief, I probably wouldn't have lasted really long because I got an attitude and I kind of say stuff that I probably don't need to be saying. So it probably worked out that I didn't become chief. So, things work out. I mean, I majored in sociology when I was at Central, and it turned out that I ended up doing social work. People don't think about that when it comes to law enforcement, but you're actually dealing with people who are having crises and struggles and things like that. They're having societal struggles. So actually, I ended up being a social worker. I just, the what do you call it? The attire for the day between a social worker and a police officer, the gun. Other than that, I'm doing social work.
Right. So you wouldn't say that you don't necessarily need college. You wouldn't say that.
No, I say you need college, especially in this time and day. It's almost like college now. College degrees, is some opinions, or it's almost like got to have a high school diploma. A high school diploma, you can do okay, but now it's like you need community college or something or either just follow your passion, whatever that is.
Now you didn't, evidently, me reading your bio and some things, you didn't. Sometimes you ask your kids what you want to be when you grow up.
Yeah.
What you want to do when you grow up.
Yeah. Yeah.
You said your friend, you needed a job and your friend just told you, hey, the police department is hiring. And you went to be a police.
Yeah. I was working 3 jobs. I don't know whether you're familiar with a school out north called Little River.
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually worked out there, and I was working Little River, driving a school bus, working at Parks and Rec, and working at McDonald's all at one time. And then when she said that and I looked at the pay versus 4 jobs, I was like, yeah, I'll do that. So, yeah, I mean, it was supposed to be, I guess. So, yeah.
Right. So how did you, how did you get up in the rankings? Well, I wouldn't say fast. I don't know how long it takes or what the months and years. So how did you climb up so far?
I kind of have to give that to my father. He said, let your work speak for itself. And I did a lot of, I really enjoyed doing the work. And I also like doing different things. I actually was doing things like creating We had a program where we sent out letters to individuals who had warrants, like get this prize at the pawn shop, and the prize was you're going to be arrested when you get here. I did seatbelt stuff. I mean, I was always doing things in the community, so it just ended up fitting me, and people in the agency kind of saw that. Not that it was always easy, but I was committed and I bought into the philosophy. It paid off.
And so, what was some of your hardest challenges in the police department when you
Uh,
first got there?
well, actually, when I was there, I joined in 1981 in the academy, and back then it was called public safety. So I'm also a trained firefighter. So we were trained as a firefighter and police officer back then, and what I actually learned from that was I understood what real fear is, because they make you go into burning buildings, they make you go into dark holes, and I have a natural fear of heights. And so it also kind of prepared me for that. So I don't know. I mean, that's that. I mean, I appreciate that question because I started climbing up the ladder around about 85, 86, and I was a corporal. And then, like I said, I guess folks saw something in me. I don't know. And then also too, I started getting lazy.
Right.
It's like, let me see if I can do something else, and I go supervise somebody. And then I just enjoyed. I also like management.
Mhm.
And having an impact. I really appreciated being a captain. I was a district commander down around Central, Research Triangle Park, Cornwallis Road, McDougal Terrace was when I was a district commander. And I liked having people call me and say they need something. And then I was able to help them. One of the nicest things that an individual said to me was I was an answer to their prayers.
Mhm.
So if a community member said we have drug dealers here, I made sure I took care of that for them. So I was really, I wasn't the one that, I mean, I arrested people, but I'm the one that sits in a police car in the community talking to the kids.
Mhm.
So it's for me, policing is about community and taking care of those individuals. I mean, I know you see the uniform, but my goal was making sure that they not only saw the uniform, but they also saw BJ,
Mhm.
and that's what was important.
Right. So you went out, did you go out in the street a lot?
Yeah, I mean,
So
I did the patrol and
yeah.
all that,
Mhm.
and I did what I was supposed to do. But like I said, my thing was building relationship with the community. I mean, I still have people now, occasionally will say, "You were one of the best cops," and that's what I want to hear. I mean, especially in this climate, people need to understand they're human beings that are having they call us because they're having problems, right? And so we should be able to go in and help them solve those problems, even sometimes really quickly. So for me, again, I have a heart of a social worker or a person that wants to help humanity. So being a police officer didn't change that. That was just my job. I still came in viewing you and seeing you as a human. And then I also saw you when you were at your worst, but also not looking down on you because of who you were and your struggle. And for me, it worked and it paid off for me, not only in the community, my reputation in the community, but with inside the agency as well.
So since you've retired, what have you seen that that's have you seen anything getting worse in the community in the Durham area or gotten better or anything that can be done better in the community as far as the government or policing
Yeah.
helping out?
Now you're going to ask me to put my foot in my mouth. But yeah, I think what I'm saying is just there needs to be really more community policing just on the ground. Because I don't know whether you're familiar with a guy named Steve Chalmers, who's homegrown here. I was under
Mhm.
him and I was under Jackie McNeil. Those are homegrown guys, and they really did a lot of work in making sure we did community policing. And the programs that they implemented, like one thing is called Partners Against Crime. I mean, that's something that was implemented back in the 80s under Steve Chalmers, and it is still impactful today, basically letting the community drive what they want. What we found out statistically was when we talked to the community, policing was down number 5.
Mm.
They wanted to make sure the houses in the community were boarded up or taken care of. They wanted stuff for their kids. So policing is not a priority if you listen to the community. It's the things that make their life safe and whatever that is. And usually it is not law enforcement. And so what we believe, and I believe, and a lot of agencies believe, we got to hear the community is what you want. And it is not always law enforcement. We weren't built to take care of societal ills.
And what you mean it's not always law enforcement?
Because, just that was why I was really glad you talked to me. You just wanted me here is just to talk about the fact that, take for instance, right now, the Washington Post, I just got through reading that, right? And I was going to talk to you about some of the details on that, but people are being killed who have mental health issues, right? They're on that Washington Post. I read all, they start, I don't know whether you're familiar with, they track killings of police killings in the country. They were doing it for 10 years and they stopped in 2024. So I've been reading and have read the 1175 for 20. I've read that twice and I've just got through reading it again, just because I want the data. And a lot of individuals were mental health or homeless. That's not a police issue, but we're the first ones that have to deal with that. I don't know whether you remember, there was a shooting in Dallas several years ago where a police officer was shot in a parking lot. And the police chief said that the community and this country has a tendency to put societal ills at the doorstep of law enforcement. We weren't built for that. We weren't built to take care of homeless people. We weren't built to do mental health and all those types of things. I mean, when you go into a home and you're talking about, especially when it comes to kids and families with issues that they have, it's kind of hard to not to understand that sometimes the kids are doing something that we might say is wrong, but if their parent is not home because they're working 4 jobs because they can't make living wages or they don't have health care, that's going to cause some problems sometimes if you don't have that stability in the home. So for me, it's bigger than law enforcement, and we just got to have that conversation.
And what do you think that the community gets wrong about police?
I don't think it's necessarily anything they get wrong. Is that they have an expectation that we do more. They want us to do more that we should be doing.
Okay.
They're looking at us to do things that aren't being done. And I don't want to get too political about it, but it really does boil down to that, right? I mean, if you're wanting to take care of your children, you can't, and you got to work 4 jobs. You can't go to a PTA meeting. You can't meet with the teachers to find out what's happening at school for your child. That doesn't mean that you're a bad parent, but it gets to the point, the priority in some of these homes is to simply make sure their child has a roof over their head, has clothes, has a meal on the table, because that's how they show love, simply because they have to work and because for some reason people don't want to pay people a living wage so they can be home and raise their children and discipline their children. It's difficult. And when you see that, and that's kind of where my perspective was of law enforcement, I see that. Right. So that's why I'm like, people need to vote. People need to be out here. I mean, kids don't want to be doing things, but if their parents are only doing X, and then you have these children who are out here doing some stuff that they don't, like selling drugs, but they're not selling drugs to make money. They're selling drugs to to help mom and them keep the lights on. And people don't understand that. See, we see that. And some of us don't talk about that. And I want to talk about that as a law enforcement, I see that. I see a kid on a corner doing drugs, and all he's doing it for is to help mama and the kids, the little babies, staying safe. But we don't talk about that. And then you see a drug dealer fussing at a guy to come and sell drugs, and he's like, "You late." And I'm thinking, that's management. Right? They're out here managing this stuff, and they'll need is a little education. So, for me, it's deeper than that, and we're not having those kinds of conversations that we need to have in our community.
Right. So, hearing you talk about that, when you was out there in the field and you seen those things, how did you? Can't think of the word I'm thinking about, but how did you approach? If you seen a drug dealer or a kid out there in the street, how did you approach them as a police officer? Did you have them conversations with them?
Had some conversation with them, but also we got to do our job, right? If you're out here selling drugs, we got to do our job, boo. Right? Got to do that kind of stuff. And then also, I would actually see some of them who had not been arrested. I'd be like, I need you to be the police. Right? No, I don't want to be the police. And I'm thinking, yeah, because you're in the community, right? So you hear officers say this thing that they had to make a split-second decision and possibly shoot someone, right? So I'm thinking, if I get you to be the police, right, the community. So you probably would not take a second you would probably take, I mean, you might not take a half a second, you might take a full second because you know BJ, right? So we have to figure out to get away from this. Well, no, I don't want to be the popo, right? We got to get away from that. I mean, I understand the history, but that's history. We need to learn from that. But I think as a Black community, we need to figure out. We need to patrol our own communities because we know our communities. We know the people in our community, and that's what builds relationships. And so for me, it's let's kind of move away from what they be feeding us in the media. You know, they give us this 30-second loop of somebody being killed. And I'm not saying that that is incorrect all the time, right? But you get that 30-second loop, and like I'm reading these reports, but you don't get the rest of the story. He did something, and then he didn't do that. Like I was just telling you, I read this stuff, and what I'm looking for out of this data is of the 1,175, 500 of them were given verbal commands.
Mhm.
And if they had just simply done what the officer asked them to do, 500 of those 1,100 and some people would be alive today.
Right. So I got a couple things trying to. So you said I was watching the video you had with a couple officers. I don't know they were lieutenants or whatever. And something that you just said about getting guys in the community or whoever's Black coming out of college or whatever to be a police officer. I think he was talking about the George Floyd when all the riots broke out, and he was saying, well, you know, when we was Blacks was outraged, and
Yeah.
he said something about, well, I got space on the police force.
Yes.
I need some of y'all to,
Yes.
you know, join if y'all want to make a difference.
That's right.
Something what you were just saying.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that was, and I appreciate you doing that. That was part of the movie that we have out called hashtag HUEMANS hashtag humans.
Okay.
Save a guide to get home, and it's free. It's on YouTube, and we have what we call an updated version of the talk on it. And yeah, I mean he's now at Winston Salem. He was the chief down in Edenton, and that's what he was basically saying. We've got to change this stigma in our own community to do that. I mean, they're paying $50,000 in Mayberry, right, to be the popo.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And it's not like you need to be the popo for 30 years, but you can go if you don't have the funds or the means to go to college, or for some reason you're not ready to go to college. They're paying for college now, and you know, and you could. And with all due respect, police work can be dangerous, but it ain't that dangerous, right? There are law enforcement on an average about less than 200 that are killed annually, but they interact with over 80 some million people annually, right? So it's stuff happens. I'm not going to take that away from that stuff, but it also, you know, how do you interact with folks? How do you talk to folks? So the history of policing, as we know how it started, right, for the most part, especially in the South, start with, you know, slavery, slave patrol and all that. And then we forget about the elites up in North who welcome these individuals who look like them and put them in slums, right? So it's the same thing, but you know, our folks kind of went over and got us and brought us over here and then got slave patrol. The white elites said, y'all are welcome to come over here, but we're going to put you in a slum and make it work in this fact. Same thing, but just different. And so we just got to understand that it's not like that anymore. And we need to remember that history, but we also need to understand we need to police ourselves and be in the building. We're in the building. Black people are running police departments, and women are running police departments. So it's just trying to change the stigma as to law enforcement it's not your grandfather's. It's not your grandfather. And then you're talking about even the grandfathers who may have been doing that. You're talking about their descendants are in the building with us. They're allies. So, you know, just because they're white, just because you see a white guy in a uniform does not mean he's a racist police officer. He probably going home laying down with a woman darker than me. You know what I'm saying? So you don't know. So it's just my work is about getting people home. That's the priority. Get the popo home and get us home.
Yeah, you just brought up two other things that I looked at. And one of the guys in that same video who was talking about this, you know, a lot of times we see white officers, we already automatically think they're racist.
Yes.
And he was just saying that he knows someone, you know, he's a good person,
Yeah.
he's white, he don't even think he's racist.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of times we do think that,
Yeah.
you know. Well, not me. I ain't gonna say me. Not
Yeah.
me.
Well, I mean,
But
I get it.
I get it
mean,
though.
that's just
Yeah.
it's kind of that's the history,
It's history,
right?
right,
So we
yeah.
just kind of need to move. I mean, I was at a I was out of uniform. I was at a community meeting and I was talking to this black male, having a really good discussion. I mean, just chatting it up, right? And we were shaking hands. And he said, "What do you do?" And I said, "Police department. I work for police."
What's going on? I hope that you are enjoying this episode, but I wanted to take the time out to ask you to please subscribe to the podcast. I've noticed that a lot of people are watching but are not subscribed. Make sure you subscribe, like, share, and don't forget to hit the notification bell. That way, you won't miss an episode when it's aired or about to air. And also, make sure you go to impelforwardmerch.com. That's impelforwardmerch.com. Grab you something. Now back to the episode.
Snatched his hands. Yeah, I can't talk to you.
Okay.
I can't, I mean, and I'm like, well, just literally a second ago, you and I were having a conversation.
Yeah.
And the thing that people don't understand, for some black officers, we are also viewed as working for the man.
Mhm.
I mean, I've had people tell me, "You're gonna have to get somebody to come because I'm not going to be arrested by you as a woman." I mean, so we sometimes get some of the stuff internally, but our own community sees us as an enemy simply because. And I'm like, "Boo, I just working a job because I like living indoors. I'm not, I'm just here to catch a
Right.
check.
Right.
But you mad at me because I'm happen to be in this uniform, but that's not who I am. I'm not defined by this uniform. I'm BJ.
Right.
You need to see me, not just see the uniform."
They don't know you as the person.
Yeah.
They know what's inside.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. So what would you say do you know the ratio of black and white cops?
Yeah. I mean, it's predominantly white men,
Mhm.
and we're still, African Americans are still not double digits. Women are not even double digits yet. It is still predominantly white men, and we need to change that. We need to change that.
I don't know if that'll ever happen.
Well, I mean,
just because what you say.
I know. I mean, that's what I'm saying. We gotta change the look of it. Just change the mindset, and that's what I'm trying to get folks to at least consider. Because it's a good, decent job. I mean, I get a check every month, man. I'm retired, so I'm good.
Right.
So it's a good job.
Yeah. So one of the things I heard and read you say a lot is the priority is to make it home. To make it home. And that hit a lot in a lot of things I was reading and hearing what you were saying. So tell us some of the things, like, I don't know if it was you or something else I was looking at where it said, a lot of people say when you get pulled over, you see things and people get pulled over by the police and the police tell them to just step out the car. Is that a law to step out the car?
Yeah.
So you have to step out the car.
You got to get out of the car. So 1977 Supreme Court ruling, a guy was pulled over for some kind of vehicle registration or something. And they pulled over for vehicle violation. Is MIMS is a Supreme Court ruling. And they saw a bulge in his pants or something and they got him out. He didn't want to get out and they got him out. And he took it all the way up to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court said yes. Thurgood Marshall, who was the first black person on the thing, he was like, "Nah, that's giving the popo too much power." But he wrote the dissent, but it was overruled. So yes, it is a Supreme Court ruling. You have to get out of the vehicle.
Yeah, so it was you. Now that you're talking, it was you that I was listening to. So
yeah, you gotta get out.
And another thing you was talking about, refusal. A lot of people, when they say they want to search their car.
Yep.
You say you can say no, you don't want them to search the car. So what if they continue to do it? What happens with that?
Well, that's the part. What I tell people, if a police officer asks you if they can pat you down or search you, always say no. Always say no, right? It does not mean they're not going to search. What I'm doing is preparing you for the fact if that officer has violated your rights. So let them search. Say no. Always say no. And then if they search and then they find something and then it was an illegal search, then you get arrested, you tell your lawyer. So the bottom thing is say no to the search, give them the basic information, name, date of birth, address, give them all the legitimate information and things that they may ask for that they really need. Then after that, STFU. Stop talking. Stop running your mouth.
Yeah.
Stop running your mouth. I mean, you can talk and say whatever you want to, because I also want to encourage people if they're, asking about crime and all that. I mean, I want you to make your community safe if you're aware of that. But for the most part, you don't have to say nothing. Just say, "I'd rather speak to a lawyer," and then just stop talking. So yeah, but you got to get out of the car. Always, always, always say no to the search. Does not mean they won't search. Is if they arrest you and then the search could have been illegal, your lawyer needs to know that. And then the other thing, and that since you talked about that, is the complaint. I've been doing this for 11 years now almost, and one of the 5 things that come up doing this stuff, and one of them is filing complaints. Our community does not file complaints. Our Black community does not believe things are going to happen. And that was another driving reason as to why I started this business. Because as a police executive, I need people to understand that as a police executive, I need to know if my officers out here being unprofessional. And I can't know that because I'm not in the street. I'm a police exec. I'm in the C-suite now. So only way I'm going to know that I have an officer out here being unprofessional is if you tell me. And being in the C-suite means that you may not know. I'm waiting on that 3rd complaint to fire him or her, but I can't get you to file a complaint. I was on the police department less than 3 years, and I pulled over a white male over near Northgate Mall. His tags were expired. Back then, it was, the inspection sticker and all that kind of stuff. His tags had expired, and I pulled him over, and I was straight up police officer. I was like, because I didn't want to be over there. I was out of my district. They were like, you need to fill in over here. I said, I don't want to go. So I had an attitude. I mean, I can remember the day because I was like, attitude. So I stopped him. So I was like, sir, I was sir this, standing the way I was supposed. I mean, just straight up police officer, professional. He filed a complaint on me because I did not smile at him. That says 2 things. First of all, that the individuals in the leadership back then thought that was significant enough to have me brought in to tell my sergeant that I did not smile at this white man. He did not complain about the ticket. He complained because I didn't smile at him, which says if he can complain about me not smiling, you certainly can smile. You certainly can file a complaint about anything else that you feel. It doesn't necessarily mean anything is going to happen to the officer. What you're trying to do is create a record, a paper trail. Because if BJ is a butt, it will eventually get her disciplined or terminated. But I don't know that as a C-suite unless you tell me. And so for me is get the idiot off the street and file a complaint to let us know. Don't wait until, oh yeah, BJ killed somebody, but she been a butt for years. But as a community, you've known BJ was a butt. Now that she's killed somebody, now you want to tell WRL, yeah, we know BJ was a butt for years, but you didn't say anything, and somebody could have stopped, possibly still be alive today, or not have had to get up with her unprofessionalism. So for me to get the Black community, if you don't want to join the police department, I need you to complain on the police department. And the reason, I know I'm kind of going on with that,
go ahead.
But what that does, it sets the tone for the culture. Because what happens if BJ has a bunch of complaints and then does something horrific, and you, the community, have complained on BJ, and then she does something horrific, it not only impacts the officer who has done something, BJ who's done something horrific, now they'll go back and go, oh, chief, the community told you BJ was a butt, but you kept her, and now so now instead of the police officer getting terminated, the chief or somebody in the C-suite might have to hold something because they didn't do that, because now basically they're saying possibly that they have created this culture where they've allowed this to continue.
Yeah, that was my next question, because you hear a lot of times when stuff like that do happen, and a police might kill somebody or do something egregious, and you find out that they had a long record of doing this and this and that. Is there a certain number?
No, there is not a certain number. It just depends on the complaint. I mean, because remember, that's what I try. Also, thank you for asking that. It's a job, right? People are going to mess up and make mistakes, right? So we need to understand that. That's why when you called me and said, you it was a job, So like when I was telling you when the man complained on me for smiling, you can better believe after every car I stopped, hey, how you doing? Hey, how you doing? Hey, how you doing? Because it's just the one of the job. Yeah. So all you want to do is try to get people to change their attitude. And once you do that or give them training, that's all you want. Just like any other job, I need you to change your behavior. And if you don't change your behavior, then we're going to have to do what we got to do.
Yeah. That's a lot. Hey, look, y'all make sure y'all get out the car. When they tell you get out the car, get out the car. Yeah. Get out the car. Make it home. Make it home. Yeah. So how was it, you being a Black woman, African-American woman, moving up in the rankings? Now you said police department's mostly white men, and of course black men, some
Yeah,
black
yeah, yeah.
men. How was that with you being in leadership, telling them you giving orders? How was that for you? Was it did they take it good? I mean,
I didn't care if they took it good or
you
not,
did?
because you also have to remember that it's a paramilitary organization,
Mhm.
right? So yes, they didn't like it,
Mhm.
and I kind of have that personality. It's business, right? And so I did have people actually verbally say they didn't want to work for me. I actually, and I was this guy came to work for me. I was as an investigator, and he was nice enough. I have thanked him a couple of times since then. I really appreciate it. He said he was told, "Don't go work for BJ," right? And he came, and then within less than 6 months, he came back to me. He said, "You're all right." He said, "All you want is for people to do their job. That's it, boo. Do your job." So I kind of was okay with that. However they viewed me, some of the individuals in the agency, because it also weeded out individuals who may not have wanted to work with me or understood, all I want you to do is do your work. I don't my mantra was, I don't roll over and look at you in the morning, boo, and you don't pay my mortgage. I
Mhm.
just need you to do your job. And it was real clear. I just need you to do your job. And yeah, I mean, being a black woman in a predominantly white male industry has, and it still does. But again, I think you just have to be able to understand that I'm here for the job, to do what I'm supposed to do, the commitment to the community, my expectations of the folks. And I made sure that, luckily, in the leadership that I was on, we made sure that people on the ground knew exactly what we wanted to have done. And that's the thing that people have to remember is to, I can go to a community meeting all day long and talk about, our philosophy and this is what we're going to do. 30 minutes after the meeting's over, you get stopped by an officer that just does not do, I need to know that. So you got to make sure that the persons who are delivering the service understands the culture and the philosophy of the agency.
Right, right. So how and much you've been retired? How long you been retired?
2010.
2010. How much are you still involved in the community now, and why? If so,
Yeah, no, I've always been involved in the community. I
Mm.
like being in the community. That's just because of that's just how it was. My parents, my mother was a teacher. She taught doing integration and segregation, and being in our community, I saw her and my father do stuff like that. So it's just kind of how I like to move. Um, I, I just feel like I want to give back. I mean, that's just part of who I am. I'm on the Juvenile Crime Prevention Council now, trying to figure out how we can help juveniles who may be truant, or making sure their families have support by nonprofits. So it's just trying to, and mainly the thing that I'm doing with this business is because of the climate. I'm trying to make sure our folks get home so they can do whatever it is their dream is, right? And not because it's just there's a lot of times. I mean, most of the time, there's no reason that black and brown bodies should be killed by law enforcement. I mean, that's not even. And like I said, if 500 of them had just done what the officer had asked based on this data, they'd be alive today. Simply just do it. You ain't got to like the police officer. And uh, I asked a friend of mine to do some data. He works for the police department. An average vehicle stop is about 20 minutes.
Mhm.
You can hold it in the road for 20 minutes. Go home. And I need law enforcement to get home too, because it's just not, money's good, but it ain't that good.
Right.
And people need to understand that we want to go home too. And everybody's has a bad day. Even the popo have a bad day. And people forget. I mean, I had an officer whose wife died during childbirth. You know, his first day back after, what he had to go through, he probably wouldn't have been in the mood for somebody acting all crazy, right? Because he's still, I mean, all that thing about don't bring your stuff at work, but he gonna bring that to work. We're human beings. We got drama. We be lifing too,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
We be
Yeah.
lifing too. So some days we have bad days.
And you said something that I think a lot of people may have a problem with. Just do what the officer asks. You know, a lot of times they say that the officers are too aggressive. They pull me over for nothing, and then they don't want to do what the officer asks. I say that because I hear people talk.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I hear it all the time.
Yeah.
I hear it all the time.
And like you just said, you just said it again, get home.
Yeah.
And I agree with you. A lot of people just have like you see a lot of these videos and why didn't they just do this? Why didn't you just be quiet, get an officer what he asked for? Just get out the car. You had a couple of months ago when T.I.'s son, I don't know if you've seen that, when he got pulled over. I guess he was in Atlanta somewhere. Officer kept telling him, get out the car, get out the car. And he wouldn't, but he called his lawyer. The lawyer told him, get out the car. Get out the car.
Yeah.
You have to get out the car.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. You remember the football player a couple of years ago? He got pulled over. I forgot what team he was on, and he didn't get out. He eventually got out of the car, but then after, people don't talk about it because they don't. Because I'm that type A that goes back and look at stuff, and eventually at one thing he says, yeah, I could have done better, right? I mean, you're a black football player, so people look up to you. So set the example. Again, we talked about it earlier. It's this climate. It's everything that we've been fed. And people just make the assumption, as soon as they get pulled over, I start sucking air when I get pulled over, right? I mean, why am I being stopped? I mean, so I get a little nervous too.
Right.
But I understand they're doing their job. So the thing is, get out of their heads, stay in your own heads, and maintain your own emotions, because you don't know which officer you're going to get. You might get the officer that's, how you doing, ma'am, real polite and all, or you might get the one that's having a bad day and walk up on you like, you can just tell. Don't get sucked into that, right? Because you don't know which way they might go.
Right.
It's you got to check your own emotions during that, and we just gotta we gotta get home. It was one several years ago. This young male was pulled over, and he said, "I was pulled over because I was black in a nice car in a nice neighborhood." You pulled over because you ran a stop sign, right? Unless a police officer walks up to your car and says to you, I stopped you because you were black in a nice neighborhood in a nice car. If he tells you your tail light was out, your tail light was out. Get through the interaction, file a complaint later. They're not going to say that. You might be able to read that they, whatever you feel like they are, but at that moment, they got the power. You ain't got to like it. You just got to understand it. And you just got to understand you don't know which officer you're getting, because there are, just like there's probably a butthole passing somebody a dozen donuts right now, right? But you got your donuts and you're going home, right? And then you complain about, he was a butt handing me my 12 donuts. Get home. That is the priority. Nothing else is the priority. Nothing else is the priority.
Now, talking to you on the phone, I want you to help me understand this more. I think I heard you correct, but you said the community had the Mike Brown situation wrong.
Yeah.
Tell me more about it.
Yeah. All right, let me go ahead and clarify that.
Yeah.
Let's also remember that during Michael Brown, Obama was in office, and Eric Holder was in office, right? He was over the Department of Justice. Compare that to today, but just won't say any more than that. Michael Brown is based on a lie. Michael Brown never had his hands up. He never had his hands up. One of the heroes of that particular interview, they interviewed or canvassed 300 homes. They ended up with 44 witnesses. 34 of them were black, and 4 of them were white. There was one guy, I don't know, the cars were going, the police car was going facing one direction, and one of the guys, witnesses, was facing the other direction. And one of my hero in this, during reading the articles or reading that report, if you want to see the report, because this is actually out of the report, he was a convicted felon. His son had been shot doing a robbery by police. He made it very clear when he was interviewed, I do not like police. He didn't like police, but he testified and told the truth. Michael Brown never had his hands up. And they believed those black witnesses. Even one witness, a woman, said she would have shot him sooner. And a lot of the conversations in that report done under the Obama administration and Eric Holder, that the witnesses in that community did not want to testify because of the hands up, don't shoot. There was a 70-some-year-old male that was interviewed, refused to do that. He said there were a bunch of witnesses, but because of the community saying hands up, don't shoot, or snitches get stitches, they did not testify, which is not good. It was not good. And then the guy, I remember the one who's supposed to be his buddy that was with him, that he actually started the hands, shot him with his hands up. His name was Dorian Johnson. He was killed last year. And basically he was killed, and the person who killed, basically what I can find out right now, it's a self-defense. So he lied. And part of the Department of Justice thing, that when they ask about the friend that was with Michael Brown, when he went into the store and Michael Brown they stole the cigarillos. When the shooting started, his friend started to hide. He never saw the shooting. He was trying to get in a car with two women. Most of the witnesses that they interviewed said his friend that was with Michael Brown, they never saw him during the entire thing because he was hiding somewhere. And he had also been charged with a dishonesty crime earlier. So even though that kind of came up the way it did, I mean, some things come up. It's unfortunate that it was based on a lie, but we got some things done. We got Black Lives Matters came out of that. So it was positive in one way, but also negative, that our own community would not testify to tell the truth. And then it was based on this young man not telling the truth. And luckily, again, and I want to make sure people understand that, if you don't believe me, I've read that report I don't know how many times, and these were, what is it? They said no justice, no peace, and they got justice, and it was predominantly Black witnesses in front of a jury was made of 9 white and 3 Black. So yeah.
So do you think it's because of history, that how we've been treated so bad, that they didn't care whether they was telling the truth or not? The community.
Yeah, I think it's history, and that's what we were talking about earlier. We have really got to move beyond that.
Right.
We got to take care of our own community, and we got to speak. If we're gonna walk around and say speak truth to power,
right,
then we really need to speak truth to power,
yeah.
right? And we just can't do it, by picking particular things that we do, and especially something like this. That wasn't necessary, and the thing that. And that's why I want to make sure this was investigated under Obama and Eric Holder, black, right? And then Lynch came after, black, right? So I am under the impression, and I firmly believe, they probably had a lot of beers over that before they released that report. And I'm sure Eric Holder made every sure that all the I's and T's were crossed before they did that, because it was a Black administration that basically said, no, this white man is not guilty. So, we gotta own that. We got to own that. I would just hope something like that doesn't happen. I mean, since you brought that up, the other thing that people are not really paying attention to, this administration has already dismissed a bunch of civil rights cases with police departments under this administration. The person who is over the civil rights department now under this administration has basically said, and I am paraphrasing, yeah, I might investigate any police shootings under this administration. And also remember, you've had two white people killed under this administration who are not cooperating with the local police up in Minneapolis. And they also have already found the one that shot the female innocent. So, but they found him innocent, but not working with the local agency down in Minneapolis. So it's really, for me right now, it's kind of gotten to the point, we need to understand that under this administration, things are different. They're going to be bringing in, it's not when ICE is coming, they are coming. And they're going to be in our communities because they're looking at immigrants and brown individuals. So they're going to be in the Black community. And so we need to be very aware of that and how we move with law enforcement. The thing that this country is made up of Mayberries, right? Small, we talk about Atlanta, Durham, stuff like that. But this country is almost 90% less than 100 personnel in law enforcement. So what you have to remember is there are some rural communities, if they come into a rural, you don't know what your police department, how they're going to interact. Are they going to be supportive? Are they going to maintain what they do? And so I'm trying to figure out how to get people to have the conversations and go into the police department. Okay, y'all, what y'all going to do when ICE get here? If y'all got your body worn cameras, what we going to do? You got to go in, find out who you're dealing with, and then act accordingly.
So do they come to you for a lot of this input?
No, I'm just out here trying to give it to them. Ain't nobody coming to them. I'm trying to, you can help me get it out there. I'm just trying to help them understand. You got to go in the building.
Mm-hmm.
You got to identify, because we all know that there's certain communities. I mean, you got the Fraternal Order of Police, right? They endorse this administration, right? But right now, they've got this thing now where they're like, wait a minute, you're doing a little too much, because it's going to have but what's happening with the federal stuff right now? It's causing mistrust at the local level. And having mistrust at the local level is never good. So even Fraternal Order of Police who endorse this administration are going, you're kind of messing it up, because I don't need no riots in Mayberry, right? So y'all need to kind of whatever. So there's even concerns among local law enforcement as to what federal folks are doing. So yeah, people need to pay attention. It's a different day. It's a different day.
Yeah, it is. So what is your take on this the actual city of Durham now, as far as community, crime? What can be done for the youth around here? As far as we was talking today, and I think they were saying that we was talking in the barbershop, and they were saying that Campus Hills, they're charging. Well, they did say it was still free for up to 18. Because I always talk about there's not enough community centers for kids to go to or things to do. Yeah. You know anything about that?
Well, that's not. The thing is, you got to remember, some kids don't want to go. Mm-hmm. See, we have a tendency to say, we need to provide this and provide that. They don't want to go. They don't want to go. Right. Right. And so the thing is, how do you get things to them? Right. Why do they have to always come here? We need to take things to them and make things available. As far as crime and youth, I think what I was talking about was like, I don't know whether you saw the report or heard the report about the absenteeism and truancy in Durham right now. 11,000 students are absent regularly. Yeah, yeah. And so what you got to figure out is, how does that tie into crime? Because if you're out of school, so what do you need to do? So it's like identifying. So what we're trying to figure out is, how do we identify what resource, why are you out? And some of the things they talked about was, kids are having to work to help support the family. They even mentioned during the presentation that some kids are actually doing caregiving. So what kind of resources do we need to help with that? So yeah, it's just the community has to figure out how to get the resources, but then that's budgetary, right? You got to pay for that. You got to pay for resources.
Right.
So yeah.
So talk about your what do you actually do with the community, with your company?
So basically, I go around and I teach individuals how to safely interact with law enforcement. I make it real clear to individuals who attend my presentation, I'm not here to change your mind about law enforcement. If you come in here hating the popo, 12, or whatever it is you call them, or MF when they pull you over, that's okay. It's about getting home and how to navigate that. So and also I want to receive, I've been doing this for 10 years, and trying to get people to understand, like I said, the top 5 things is respect, right? That was one of the first things. I've talked to close to 4,000 persons over these few years, and respect comes up really often. We just don't get respected. And to make it really simplistic, what you hear sometimes, and what I know, is that on the South side, get the police officer, what's up, homeboy? Right? But on the North side is, how can I help you today,
How
sir?
you doing?
Yeah. So why can't you just do professionalism on both sides? I'm not even saying that a white male officer or any officer can't say that, but if you have built that relationship with that community, a white boy can walk up it all day. We used to have an officer called White Chocolate. He was just so cool. We call him White Chocolate. But you got to build a relationship, right, before you can be that comfortable in your community. So I am here to just answer those questions about, well, why do they do this? Because a lot of it comes from, they just don't understand why we do what we do. And then I mentioned earlier, Black people don't file complaints because they don't feel like they're going to be heard or handled. And again, that was one of the driving reasons as a Black woman first okay, not a police officer, but I'm a Black woman first, who happen to be a police officer. And I'm telling you, we want to know and need those complaints so we in the C suite can deal with it. And it also holds us accountable, who's in the executive suite, as to what kind of culture we create. And if they create a culture that you're going to be professional, right? Then we can go somewhere. So it's mainly letting people know how to interact. Because like you said, people, well, I got to get out of the car. Because it's the law, boo. It's the law.
It's the law.
Why he got to do that? Well, he may not have to have done it that way, but he has a right to do that. Why does he have to come with his hands on his gun? Well, believe it or not, your car happens to fit the same description of an armed robbery that just occurred. He don't know you. You might have grandma stuck in the back car with a bullet in her head. I don't know you, boo. So, you know what I'm saying? I don't know you, right? And see, the thing that I was reading with the Washington Post is people don't understand what officers go through. I'm reading stuff when an officer goes in a house and he gets attacked and he's being choked out by somebody in the house. He is literally losing consciousness and he has to shoot and kill this individual. But nobody talks about that. Fear is real. Okay. I'm not going to tell you I enjoyed being a police officer, but I do understand fear. All right. I pull somebody over at 3 o'clock in the morning. They don't want to get out of the car. I don't want to put my hands on you. But if I have to, I have to. But understand, I'm terrified too, right? I'm a human being. I don't want to touch you. I just want you to do what I asked you to do. Go to jail, put you in jail. I go out of business, you post bond, everybody good. But if you make me put my hands on you, I am terrified as a human being. And I need people to understand that it's one human being interacting with another human being. And we both want to go home.
So when you work, do you people seek you out for your workshop, or do you?
Yeah, seek me out.
They seek me out.
Yeah,
Seek you out.
fun. Like I said, to be honest, Leon, I've been doing this for 10 years and I've been quitting this for 3.
Okay, you're trying to get out of it.
I'm not tired of it. It's just at some point financially, right? And I don't want to go down that. It's just, but I continue to do this work because I believe this is what I'm supposed to do with my little small talents. You asked about community. This is how I give back because I haven't have made it all the way up to the C-suite. So I have a perspective as a manager, right, as to the expectation of what an agency should at least strive to be. And I can tell you that. And I can also tell you, community, this is what you can ask of your police department. You can go in and ask your police officers, your police chief, these questions. Hold them accountable that we work for you. And people need to understand that. Go in, ask your officers or your leadership, what does your policy say on use of force, pursuit? Do you have body-worn cameras? What kind of training do you have? I mean, they have training, but believe it or not, they don't spend a lot of training on problem solving. And most of our work is problem solving and communication skills. So a lot of things that are mandatory don't lean that way. So you might go into your police department and say, well, I know you got some basic stuff, but are you teaching your police officers how to communicate, how to problem solve? So why not? And then, but understand that that's a budgetary issue. So if you a community want that, you got to pay for that because that costs money. So trying to get people to understand they work for you. And you also can be a part of that to help change the culture.
Mhm. So do you in your coaching, what you do, is it just you teaching the community or you teaching law enforcement also?
You would have to ask that. I started out trying to get into law enforcement, but it's primarily, I didn't build it for law enforcement. I
Okay.
built it for my community. That's what I built it for. I did try to go into law enforcement and I was met with resistance. I'm a Black woman telling Black people how to primarily complain on white men. I'm not welcome.
Mhm.
And I was told that.
Mhm.
And that's okay because I didn't
Right.
build it for them.
Right. Okay. So how do you get with the community though? Where do
I
you?
mean, I just do a little advertisement and,
Mhm.
and word of mouth and stuff like that. I mean,
Okay.
I don't have a lot of PR, stuff
Okay.
like that. So I just kind of, and Leon, I kind of work in a mindset of the order and as to what it's supposed to happen. I am a faithful person, and I believe that however I'm guided, whatever is supposed to happen will happen in the order it is supposed to happen. That's why I said I've been doing it for 10 years, but I've also been quitting it for 3 years.
Right.
But I also know, and I truly believe this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And if I don't do it, I'm here. Somebody needs me. But mainly, that's a good question. I'm just here trying to be in the right space. Have you given me this opportunity? Hopefully, somebody will hear something. And I try to be really cool with folks who are nonprofits. I mean, I'm not. Yeah, we all want to be, making a lot of money, but that's not what I'm doing this for, right? I work with people, at churches. I'm like, just give me a love offering, and the sister's good, right? And I work with nonprofits. So my fee is not to hurt anybody, and if you can't, I'm here to make sure you get home, because that's it, man. We got to get our brothers and sisters home to whatever journey they're supposed to be on.
Right. So, other than doing the workshops, you do speaking as well.
Yeah, I'm kind of changing from that, trying to get into a speaking kind of thing, just to kind of talk about. That's what I've been working on. You asked me what I was doing today, so just kind of working on that. And then I volunteer at the Orange County Correctional Facility, so I'm also trying to work with justice served persons. What I need them to understand is they didn't leave their rights at the gate, right? And then also, I think you and I talked about that a little bit. I think it was you, but we talked about that. What I want them to also understand that, if you're a justice served person and you just got released, right?
Okay,
And if I was a district commander and BJ just got out of prison, and BJ's thing used to be breaking the houses, right? So BJ just got out of prison, and then 2 weeks out of BJ got out of prison, our break-ins went up, right? Unfortunately for BJ, but the break-ins went up, and that's what she do. So as a district commander, my staff got to go talk to BJ, right? It ain't personal, BJ. It's just business, right? So I need them to understand that a lot of times and also let them know if the officer isn't professional coming to you with that information. Look, we had some break-ins, understand, blah, blah, blah. So I need them not to get all up in their feelings and stuff like that. That's just business. I had a friend of mine, he was justice served, and he called and he said, BJ, there's 7 cops behind me. I was like, okay, boo, slow your roll. And I said, they don't know you like I know you. You're in the community, you're doing stuff, but all they did was run your tag. And your history came up, right? They don't know you, right? So they're operating off what they see on their screen. So just breathe, get through the interaction. And that's what I also want to let the justice served person. We don't know you. We don't know that, you made a mistake. And we need to also understand police officers are going to be biased. They're like, oh yeah, he was a drug dealer, so he must still be a drug dealer. No, boo. But you got to get through the interaction and understand that they're seeing you based only on the information they have. Doesn't mean they need to treat you unprofessional, but they're going to be treating you in a particular way based on that information. So my thing is to also talk with my brothers and sisters who are coming back out, how to maneuver that interaction and not take it personally, and then file a complaint, because they ain't got to be over the top with it, right? But file a complaint, because you have a right to do that as well. So yeah.
So speaking of that, so how long does, say, one get out of prison, been out for a while? How long do it stays in the system? Say a police follow behind him, he
stays in there.
As soon as he pulls his license plate up, he see.
Yeah, it's gonna be there for a minute. It's gonna be there for a while.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't think it ever goes away.
Right.
I don't think it ever goes
So
away.
it's always in the system. So they put it license plate.
Yeah, it's gonna always be there. And then they run your name, it's gonna roll up.
Right.
It's gonna come up. Yeah. And see, that's a lot of times when people say, well, why it got to, depending on, because if they see aggravated assault or resisting, especially if they start seeing aggravated assault on a police officer, they stepping out the car real easy, right? And they stepping out the car probably with their hands on a gun, because us all they see. And so as far as they're concerned, that they thinking, okay, if you don't like what I'm saying or something goes, that there's a possibility that I may have to do something. So, I mean, you can't really blame them for that, because like I said, I don't know you.
Right.
I don't know you.
Yeah, I think that's what happened to me some years ago. I got pulled over, and he ran my tags, pulled me over. And what he said something about my license was about to expire, but it was like months out. I'm like, you put me over to tell me that, but I know why you put me over. That's why I asked, like, how long does it stay in the system?
Yeah, he probably already ran it and saw it. Yeah,
right, because he was following behind me for a little bit. Yeah, And another video I saw when you was talking to three ladies, and this is for parents, I guess. She was talking about, I think it was her boyfriend or husband got killed or something by the police, and then how she was acting after that happened with her around her kids, and she had so much hate for the
Oh
police.
yes, that was the same film that it's a film that you watched.
Oh, so
Yeah,
all that is together?
all that's one film. Yeah,
Okay,
that's an
okay.
hell yeah,
Yeah.
humans. Yeah, she was talking about that, and she also talked about the fact that her attitude she saw was starting to have an impact on her children.
Right.
And I really appreciate her saying that because it does.
Mhm.
I was doing some work in Kinston, and they actually I do have a training for law enforcement, right?
Okay.
And they helped me create that, and basically just letting them know why black people look at y'all sideways, right?
Mhm.
So we were having this candid conversation so they would understand that. And this white female police officer was like, look, she hadn't been there like 3 years. She was still kind of new, and she was riding through a housing community. And she says, I'm just riding through the housing community. And these children, she said, they probably were kindergarten or first grade, and they're saying, F the police. She said, what am I supposed to do with that? Right. And I, to this day, every time I think about that, I don't think I answered her correctly, right? Because I was like, you really got to figure out how to work with them. But how do you do that? And just what you just said, the environment that they live in, the things that they hear, the things that they see in their household. So you have a kindergarten flipping off a police officer saying F you, and this white woman police officer, any police officer, like, what? Right?
Right.
And so it's having to deal with that. And then they continue to grow up, and then they possibly do something or get engaged with one, and it goes south simply because of what the environment has created for them,
Mm.
unfortunately. But yeah, I think about that often. And she was like, I don't know what to do with that.
Yeah.
Right. And all she wants to do is like sit around with the kids, but they're like, fuck the police.
Right.
And she just got there.
Right.
Right. And you're talking about George Floyd, Michael Brown was what, 2014? Yeah, 2014. So what is that? 12 years from now? 12? What is that? 12 years. So you're talking about some police officers were teenagers or in high school that are now police officers. So they're actually experiencing that anger from Michael Brown and George Floyd, and they had nothing to do with it. So that's the other thing that I also let people know, just because Chauvin put his knee on the neck of George Floyd, that doesn't mean that the officer you run into here in Durham is that officer. So you're applying what an officer does in Mayberry, somewhere in the middle of Wyoming, who gets headlines, and you're applying that to an individual, an officer here. And what I ask people to do is please judge that officer on his interaction with you, not based on what an officer did or has done somewhere else.
Right. Yeah, you know a lot. So is there anything that I didn't ask that you do? Anything that I forget?
Yeah, I feel like I've been talking a lot, and I really appreciate you making me really feel comfortable and giving me this opportunity.
Yeah.
I think, like I said, it really is just about getting home. And also, I'm starting to really try to promote people considering joining law enforcement, especially those individuals who are doing really well and for whatever reason may not be ready for college or community college, because the money is good right now for some folks, and they can stay home with mom and them and help out at the house. But we need to start thinking about seriously patrolling our own community, and then also really pay attention right now in this climate. It's kind of scary, and you need to know what you're dealing with, what your agency is going to be doing with federal folks come in, how they're going to manage that. You need to really pay attention to that right now, because they just killed 2 white people and there were videos and nothing.
Right.
Oh,
Yeah.
let's just think about that. If they
Right.
did that to 2 white people, you know what I'm saying? So let's just be very clear about how we move when it comes to law enforcement. But also just remember, it's no matter what the officer's doing, saying, or makes you feel, stay out of his or her head and get home.
Right. And last thing before you go, you mentioned your mother and your father. What was some of the best lessons you learned from them?
Well, my father, like I mentioned, was let your work speak for itself. They grew up in the 60s, and he was working as a mechanic at this, and he was working during the time where white mechanics would not work on black people's cars. So don't keep your mouth shut, head down, and let your work speak for itself. My mother, basically, she was a teacher, and like I said, she taught doing segregation into integration. We were because she's a teacher, she brought us here to Raleigh, brought us to Raleigh to look at the museum because she's an educator. And while we were in the museum in the mid 60s, I noticed this white man watching us. And I stopped looking at what we were looking at and turned and just stared at him. She noticed me staring at him. And she then saw him staring at us. And she whispered into my ear and said, "We have a right to be here." And turned back around and began to watch and look at her paintings. And basically, we have a right to be here. And we have a right to get home safely.
Well, so tell the people where they can find you on social media, website, anything like that.
Yeah, thank you. It's U and 50. Just U and it has the ampersand, but if you put in U and 50, you can find us on my website. I do have a Instagram. Don't do a lot there because I'm old.
Yeah.
And Facebook, U and 50. So yeah, but the main thing I think I'd like for people to try to do is that film that you looked at, and thank you for viewing that. It's hashtag HUEMANS, humans, a guide to get home. It's on YouTube. It's free. It's about 25 minutes, top 30 maybe. And in that, we have what we consider an updated version of the talk. Okay. And so you can get your kids to sit down and listen to that so they can get on. Because the priority is, like I said, it's no matter what your child does or does, you just tell them, we want to get home. I would prefer you go get them out of jail than go view them at a morgue. So yeah, U and 50, and thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
And make sure you, like BJ said, get home. There you have it for another episode of the Impel Forward podcast. Remember, seize the opportunity to grasp your dreams. Peace.
Peace.